Good evening, colleagues. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are most welcome once again to one of our academic research sessions. My name is Mukhadi Matlakala, and I am Professor MC Matlakala from the College of Human Sciences at UNISA. Tonight, we've got no specific topic that we will be dealing with. This session, it's an open session where you will get an opportunity to ask any question that you have that is related to research. And we will answer your questions. Perhaps at some stages, we will use your own examples to respond to the questions that you will be asking. So I'd like to request you to post your questions in the Q&A box, and then I will attend to all the questions that are coming through. I will give you a few minutes just so that you can get yourselves together and then post any of the research-related questions that you have. Thank you. Just to let you know that we will attend to all your questions, and you're welcome to indicate any of the frequently asked questions that you normally have for your research. Perhaps whilst you are posting your questions, I just want us to talk about the hypothesis. This is one of those things that we normally get questions from about the hypothesis, especially for those who are doing quantitative studies. We normally get a question that asks, how many variables should be there in the hypothesis? And I just want to talk to you about a simple hypothesis, which is a correlation between a correlation between two test variables. This is as simple as where you have a dependent and an independent variable. And a simple explanation will be that in a hypothesis, this is where you wish to indicate that if something is done, then something else will happen. For instance, if you were to get a simple hypothesis that says a silly example would be eating carrots improves eyesight. So you've got the independent and the dependent variables in this very hypothesis. So as I indicated that the hypothesis means if one thing is done, then something else will happen. And as I say, an example will be eating carrots will improve your eyesight. So in this simple example, it would mean that you are eating the carrot. It's the independent variable. And the improved eyesight will be the dependent variable, because then the improvement of your eyesight will depend on your eating the carrots. So that's just a simple example of a hypothesis that one can actually use with your dependent and independent variables. And of course, those are the variables that should be in your study. So it should be something that you want to test in your study. And of course, at the end, you will be able to indicate or test whether indeed, based on the evidence that you have gathered in your research, you will be able to indicate if indeed eating carrots will improve the eyesight. That's just one of those examples that I want to share with you for a hypothesis. And I know this is just one of those simple things that one would wish to ask about. I will wait a while again and check if you will have questions, and you are most welcome to post any question that relates to your research. If you have a specific question from your study that you would like us to attend to, you are most welcome to also indicate that, and then we will try to attend to your question. Okay, I see one question here. Anonymous says, "Dear Prof, is it possible to submit a proposal for bursary? Is it possible to submit a proposal for bursary before approval of the research proposal by the Ethical Review Board? Or could we submit along with the proposal?" Well, when it comes to bursaries, remember that you only get awarded a bursary when you have passed your proposal module and you are now on the research component. So it is possible that if your work is satisfactory according to your supervisor, you can pass the proposal module without getting ethical clearance. So depending on the quality of your work, should your supervisor indicate that your work is of that standard that it can be submitted now to the ethics committee when you have already completed your proposal module, yes, you can then apply for a bursary, provided you have passed the proposal module. Yes, thank you, Anonymous. I hope that helps you. Yes, bring more questions. I see another person here. Anonymous says, "Good evening, Prof. Can you please talk more on the research methodology in relation to critical realism as a philosophical approach, epistemology, ontology, axiology?" Anonymous, I'm not sure this is a very loaded request. What is it should we talk about? Do you want us to talk about the different research methodologies? Or if you can just write again so that we can understand and be able to assist you with this question. The real focus of the question, do you want to talk about the research methodology, or is it critical realism that you want to hear about as a philosophical approach? I'll wait a while and then just see if Anonymous is able to give us direction there. Samuel, dear Prof, how do you state the research questions and hypothesis in a mixed method research? Right, Samuel, in your mixed method research, it depends on what are you mixing. So if you have the quantitative and the qualitative aspects that you are using for your research, and you indicate that you want to test a specific hypothesis. Remember, you will have to design the hypothesis earlier. And with regard to, you can either have the research questions or have a hypothesis that you are going to test, or you can have both. So remember that the questions are only guiding the focus of your study at the time that you start indicating the problem. Then you indicate the questions that will assist to focus your study. And when it comes to the hypothesis, from your problem statement, you will be able to indicate what is it that you would like to test based on the problem that you have identified. And I just want to say to you, remember that when you formulate the research questions, you've got certain specifics that you need to highlight in your questions. So for you to be able to develop the questions, you must have a criteria that you use to develop the questions. And your research questions should actually be focused. And as I indicated that they will come out of the problem statement, they should actually focus on the problem or the issue at hand. And again, your research questions, they should be researchable, meaning that you will have to seek information from both primary and secondary sources so that you can be able to develop the questions that you are going to ask in your study. And of course, they should be feasible, such that you should design them in such a way that they will be answerable, the questions that you are asking. And you know, they should also be relevant to your research focus. So that is a way of designing your research questions. And of course, with your hypothesis, as I indicated, that will depend whether you've got the variables in your study and what do you want to test. The relationship that you want to check amongst those variables will assist you then to develop a hypothesis. So it is possible that you can have both the hypothesis and the research questions in a mixed method research, but that should be aligned to one of those two types of methodologies that you will be using if they are focused to a quantitative aspect of your mixed method. I hope I have managed to answer your question here, Samuel. You're welcome to ask further if there is more that you would like to hear. Okay. Anonymous says the focus is on critical realism. So you would like to know, Anonymous, about the research methodology for critical realism. I'm not sure if I understand exactly what you want to hear here, Anonymous, because then you need to read about critical realism and understand how does it fit with your study, and of course the methodology that you have chosen to deal with the critical realism. So perhaps if you can give us a little bit of information about your study, then we will understand the critical realism. Remember that here you are just asking a plain question, and there should be some kind of a focus that should make us understand what is it you are asking about the methodology where you will be using critical realism. Good is asking, Prof, is there a situation when I can use a hypothesis in qualitative research? Remember that with the hypothesis, you have to test, and there are certain specific statistical analysis that you will need to test the hypothesis. So if you are going to be using a qualitative research, and this is mainly about gathering information where you will have to just ask and then you are given information. This is where you may, instead of using a hypothesis, have to use assumptions, because then you are able to test assumptions by gathering a qualitative information from specific people. Thank you, good. And another anonymous, I take it it's different anonymouses. Yes. Hello, Prof. When do you a mixed method research? When you do a mixed method research, do you still have to state the research problem? Yes, yes, anonymous. Remember that the mixed method research, it's just the approach that you are taking to answer the research question or to attempt to respond to the research problem that you have identified. The research problem, it's actually the heart of the study, because if you don't have a research problem, then there is nothing that you will be solving. So you have a problem, and once you have a problem, you choose the methodology or the methods that will assist you to respond to that problem. So if you feel the focus of your problem will be better handled with a quantitative approach, you can then use quantitative approach. If you feel it will be a qualitative approach, you will use that only. But where you feel you will have to gather enough evidence using both of the methodologies, then or the approaches, then you should be able to use a mixed method to respond to the problem that you have identified. Yes, so you do still have to state the research problem, because the whole thing about scientific inquiry is an attempt to respond to the problem that you have identified. I see another question here. Prof, what is the difference between abduction and retroduction? In what context, Anonymous, do you want to talk about abduction and retroduction? I think it's best if you have these words and they are in line with the study that you will be doing. So if you can just explain a little bit, then we will be able to assist with this abduction and retroduction. Samuel, again, thanks for appropriately answering my question on research questions and hypothesis. My second question, Prof, what are the procedures of interpreting both qualitative and quantitative data in the same study? Thank you very much, Samuel. I think here it depends on how are you using the two approaches. Is it a parallel mixed method? Is it a convergent mixed method? It depends on the question that you are asking. So if you are asking the same question and yet you want to get evidence from different approaches, you should be able to, first of all, gather the information from qualitative aspect and gather information from the quantitative aspect. And then once you have gathered all the evidence, you compare and take the similarities in line with what you would like to use to answer to the research question or to respond to the problem that you are asking. So you can either have information presented independently if you feel one aspect or perhaps one of the objectives will be better achieved if you collect quantitative information, and then the other one is best if you collect qualitative information. And in that case, it means you will be doing your study either in steps or in phases. So it depends on the focus of your study, whether you want to merge or you want to just compare the information from both quantitative and qualitative. Thanks, Sam. I hope it helps. Other questions? I'm giving you more time to ask questions. Anonymous, earlier on, the one who's asking about abduction and reproduction. Have you thought of something you would like to share that will guide us so that we can assist you with answering the question? Oh, okay. So you say it's with the research Onion Espe Saunders et al. Okay. Well, Anonymous, then talking about reproduction. This is where you want to explain more about the hypothesis, and it's where you provisionally adopt a hypothesis, and then you want to check if it is possible through your experiments that you will be able to say to agree or disagree with that hypothesis. That will be your reproduction. And when you talk about the abduction, and I'm just going to say it in simpler terms, I think this is where you get yourself not to coerce. There is some kind of coercion in what you are testing, or let me say you are forcing the cause on your variables. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but because you also have Saunders et al., I'm sure you can read further, and then you will be able to get the gist of what Saunders et al. Says about the reproduction and the abduction. But that talks to your hypothesis again. Does that help, Anonymous? And then we have Samuel, who is asking, is it possible to combine different approaches of literature review in a study? For example, narrative and systematic approach. Well, Samuel, when you do the literature review, remember it's very important that you do the critical analysis of the literature review that you are presenting. So the systematic approach is also very important, and the narrative, I'm not sure whether you will mean you narrating the story from the literature that you have read. But remember that with the literature review, because it's a scientific exercise, we actually require you to showcase the systematic analysis of that literature. And we've got another anonymous who says, I'm not clear on how to practically use mixed methods. So anonymous, it's very important that when you start choosing your approaches or your methods, you really look back at your problem. How big is the problem that it requires you to basically use a mixed method? So what is important is how far do you want to investigate the problem? So if the problem is such that you will be able to gather evidence when you use only one approach, then you can actually select one approach. The other thing that will assist you with the choosing the mixed method, it's also the number of populations that you will be using in your study. Say, for instance, you are investigating a specific phenomenon and you've got different types of populations that you will use in your study. And depending on the number of people who form the population, then it will be easy for you to be able to use a mixed method. Because in your mixed method, it means you can use either your qualitative approach and your quantitative approach. Thanks, Anonymous. One more Anonymous. Good evening, Prof. I'm currently writing my master's proposal for MEd in adult education. My proposed study is to explore the perspectives of TVET college students about self-directed learning. My study will be qualitative in nature. Provide me with any research advice. Anonymous, can I kindly know what advice do you want? Advice on how to put your argument? Do you want advice on how to design the purpose of the study? And this now will need you to understand the problem. Why do you want to inquire about self-directed learning? What did you see in these TVET college students that makes you worry about their self-directed learning? Once you have a clear problem and you are able to design an argument, a strong argument that convinces the reader that this is a researchable problem, then you should be able to continue with the study. So your problem statement is the key that is going to indicate whether the study is feasible or not. Because it's not just always that you just want to explore the perspectives of TVET college students about their self-directed learning. What did you observe about their self-directed learning that makes you say you want to explore their perspective? So this is where you start. Identify the real problem, which really warrants a scientific inquiry, then you can take it from there. Thank you. You are welcome to take it further. We will assist you with the questions, with the answers. And then the SIM, hi Prof, I'm doing a systematic review. I wish to export my research kits to compile an Excel spreadsheet to develop a Prisma, but I have more than 200,000 results. My question is, do I have to export all of them to Excel as proof of work done? Sim, remember that when you do your systematic review, you do not just take everything that you come across. You need to go back and look at the focus of your study. What are you investigating? And what do you really want to find out from this systematic review? So you need to go back and look at all those sources of data and check if the sources of data are eligible for inclusion in your systematic review. They may be dealing with the phenomenon under your study, but it may be that not all of them are eligible to can be included in your study. So before you can actually put them in your spreadsheet, you need to develop an inclusion and exclusion criteria that will be related to the focus of your study, so that when you start looking at those systematic reviews, you are able to pick those that are really relevant to the phenomenon under study. Thanks. And then another question. Good evening, Prof. Will we get access from UNISA regarding analysis tools during data analysis after interviews or surveys for honors level? This is a rather tricky one for me to answer. I'm not sure which analysis tools are these that you would like to hear about, Anonymous. Access from UNISA regarding analysis tools. Remember that if you want to do any study using UNISA, whether it's students or UNISA property, you will need to receive permission to do such. So I think this one, if you can just speak to your supervisors, you will be able to get a definitive answer regarding this, especially at honors levels. Another question, Prof. Understanding the difference between the research sample and sample procedures still confuse me. Please help me understand the difference between the two and how do we apply them. I think here, Anonymous, the first thing for you is to understand what is a research sample. What do we mean when we talk about a research sample? So a sample is that portion of the bigger population that you would like to use in your study, and then it contains only those people who are eligible according to the criteria that you have used to select them to be part of the study. So that will be your sample. The exact people or objects that you would like to include in your study. And the sampling procedure, this is the method that you will use to select such people or objects. So the one is exactly who, and the other is how do you select them. So the sample is who are you going to include in your study, and the procedure is how do you select them to come in your study. Say, for instance, you say your population, and let me use is it Sims or let me use anonymous study on the perspectives of TVET college students about self-directed learning. So let's say, for instance, the population is all the TVET college students. But out of all this, because you are looking for a specific thing, which is self-directed learning, then your sample will be only those students who have been placed in a classroom where they have been given an opportunity for self-directed learning. So it's not all of them that will come in. The population will be all the students, but your sample will be only those who have experienced self-directed learning or something like that. And then how do you select them? The sampling procedure, that will depend on the focus of your study. So we've got different sampling procedures. So you will have to find a way that you are going to select those people. Say, for instance, you've got 100 of those who have experienced self-directed learning, and out of them, you say you would like to select the third person in the classroom. So you will be selecting each third person. That means you will be counting 1, 2, the third one you take, 3, 4, 5, the sixth one you take, 7, 8, the ninth one you take, just like that. So that is your sampling procedure. So I want to employ you, Anonymous, to go and read the different sampling methods. Somewhere you can just say, I want to select only those who are available for evening classes for specific reasons that you may have. So that means you will only select those who attend evening classes only. And that will be called a purposive sampling. So that is the method that you will be using to select your a sample. I hope it makes sense, Anonymous. Analysis tools such as SPSS. Okay, so this is the response from the colleague who wants to know about the honors. So as I said, let's please ask this information from the lecturers who are responsible for the honors modules, because all these analysis tools, they need to be, you need to get permission to get them. And then you may also need some kind of training to be able to use the SPSS. So I think your lecturers will be best in a position to can answer this one question. Different departments do things differently. Different colleges do things differently. So for the honors modules, you may be able to get different information from what we can share here. Another question, is it mandatory to have hypothesis in research? Well, it depends on the focus of your study, and it depends on whether there is anything that you would like to test. If you have those variables that you would like to test, the independent and the dependent variables, or you would like to check, your study focuses on testing the relationship between specific variables, then you will need to have a hypothesis. But it's not a must that you will have a hypothesis in all the studies. Another question. Good evening, Prof. How do you explore TVET colleges learners' perspectives about self-directed learning through intrinsic and extrinsic motivation? Again here, Anonymous, what is the problem? before you even go to the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, what did you observe? What is the problem with the Divert College learners? Because here you say you want to explore their perspectives. And remember, perspectives are personal. So once again, we need a strong argument for you to really wish to look at the perspectives. Then you will be able to check whether you need to use your intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. Here is another one, David. One of my MPH examiners requested me to make corrections with exclamation marks to discuss separately recruitment process. Is it the how that Prof is trying to explain now? I'm not sure if you are linking this to the sample and the sampling methods, because recruitment process is another thing very different from the sample and the sampling methods. So the recruitment process, this is where they would like to know, how did you get the participants to join in your study? What methods did you use to recruit these people to be part of your study? Did you go there and get all the participants in a hall and explain to them the focus of your study and indicate to them that you would like them to be part of this study? Did you write them letters? Did you send in flyers to indicate the focus of your study and then ask for the participants, those who are interested, to come and join you? So they simply want to know, how did you get these people to come in? The recruitment process that we have used for you to be in this classroom or to be in this session tonight is that we have given you information about these kinds of sessions. We have shared with you the timetable. We have shared with you the link, and then we have indicated the importance of you being in this session, and it was just up to you whether you want to come and join or not. But we have recruited you to come and join this session in many ways. So that's just as simple as what they needed you to include in your recruitment. I don't know whether I'm back with is it mandatory to have hypothesis in research? I attended to that. What is the difference between problem statement and thesis statement, and how the two are used in a mixed method research? Anonymous, I don't know about a thesis statement, but your problem statement is that problem that you have identified that makes you to want to undergo or take on this scientific inquiry. This is the problem that makes you say, I would like to investigate further, and I will use these scientific methods to be able to get evidence that will assist me to respond to the problem. And I think with regard to using the problem statement in the mixed method, I've already explained that earlier on in response to one of the questions. What is objectivism and subjectivism in a research, and how the two interrelated, and how am I expected to use it in a research process? Anonymous, some of these words, such as objectivism, subjectivism, they really will depend on the focus of your study. So it's important that when you want to know about these kinds of words, you should first look at the focus of your study. What is it you are dealing with? And then it's important that you just take the book and check out, what does objectivism mean? And is it really important for the study that I'm doing? Before you so that you don't just get the information at random. It should assist you so you can actually put them together in your own study. So it's difficult for me to say you are expected to use them in a research process when we do not know the focus of your study. So please look at your study and check out whether you want to follow objectivism or subjectivism as such. And of course, where you get stuck, if you need more assistance, I think your supervisor should be able to guide you depending on the problem or the focus of your study, whether you will need to use these words in your study. Right. This is another question. Good evening, Prof. What is the best way to approach thematic analysis during qualitative data analysis? I think a thematic analysis is actually a form of qualitative data, another method of qualitative data analysis. So I want to say to you, if you go back and read about thematic analysis, and then check out if there is any steps that you would like to follow during your thematic analysis. But what you want to ask here is the approach would be that you develop themes, as it indicates, thematic analysis. So you will have broad themes that you will be using. So from your narratives or your interview transcripts, or from whatever, whether it's the literature that you will be analyzing, you will have to pick up similar themes, themes from a similar information, and be able to make broad themes, which you will then be able to explain or support with information that comes out of those narratives or transcripts. So thematic analysis, I think in your books you will get it. It's a straightforward method of qualitative data analysis. Good evening, Prof. The literature review reveals that out of 750 or 75,000 Divert college learners enrolled, only 4,000 complete their studies. The rest of them, they drop out. This is why I want to explore their perspectives. Why do Divert college learners drop out in such high numbers? How do I phrase my problem statement? Anonymous, you already have the statistics, and I guess this is authentic information that you got from the Divert college. So you've got references of this kind of information. So what you need to go and check again, if there are 4,000 who complete their studies, what seems to be the problem there? You need to check out what makes the students drop out. And if this is readily available information that you are gathering from the Divert College documents, what have they done about it? Why do you think it's a problem for you? If it's not a problem for you, whose problem is it? And why is it a problem? So you build your argument around all these questions so that at the end we can understand why you want to do a scientific inquiry. Once you have indicated that is a problem and whose problem is this, why is it a problem, then we will be able to gather information of what do you then want to do. So your argument should center around all those questions. I hope it helps. David, how far should a researcher go regarding statistics in explaining the problem statement? I'm still struggling because showcasing details regarding the scope of the problem under the problem statement and background information. I'm still struggling because showcasing details regarding scope of the problem under problem statement and background information. Anonymous, remember, is it David, that we say the problem statement is what you have identified as the matter that warrants scientific inquiry. And the background information, this is the supporting information that is going to indicate the feasibility of the problem. Where does the problem come from? So if, for instance, we are talking about the problem of the Divert College students, the background information that we will require is about the education that is offered by Divert colleges. And then we will gather information about the status of the students in that college. How do they learn? When do they learn? How do they pay their fees? What makes them pass or fail? That is the background information. And once you have indicated that kind of information, then you are able to filter it down to now start giving us the real problem. Whilst this is what is happening, is the status quo, the problem now is that we always have 7,500 or 75,500, but we notice that 4,000 only complete, and accordingly, this is what we see as the problem, that the students will stay longer in the program, they do not finish, and they get kicked out or excluded. So because the word drop out may mean anything. It may be like students do not have money to pay for the next year, or it may be students are taking a break. It may be students are excluded because they have stayed longer in the program, something like that. So this is how you build up your problem statement. So the background information is giving the reader on the perspective of the problem that you are going to be talking about. So already when a person starts reading, they understand, oh, so the focus of this study, it's actually about the failure rate or the dropout rate of the students. But then one wants to hear what is the problem with it. I hope it helps with the problem statement and the background information. They are not the same at all. One is the real problem and one is the backup problem for what you are trying to investigate. Good evening, Prof. My topic says an investigation into various designs and mechanical properties of porous 3D dental implants. How best can I tackle this? Anonymous, what is the problem with the implants? You want to investigate various designs and mechanical properties of porous 3D dental implants. What is the real problem with these 3D dental implants? Why do you want to investigate the various designs? Do we know about those various designs? Are they working? The mechanical properties, have they been researched? So you see, this is where you start with your background information. And then after that, you now give us the problem. What is the problem with the 3D dental implants? Why do you want to investigate them? Hope it helps. Kingsley, good evening, Prof. Please, how many theories can one include in a PhD dissertation? There is no, well, I cannot say you can include one theory or two theories. It depends on the focus of your study, and it also depends on how are you going to use those theories in your study. So your supervisor should be able to guide you, and the focus of your study will also indicate how many theories you can have. And of course, it depends on how are you going to use these theories? Do you want to use the theories to define your concepts? Do you want to use the theories to back up your problem? Do you want to use the theories to shape up your results? Or do you want to use the theories to present the findings or to discuss the findings? Or do you just want to use the theories in the form of a literature backup? So the focus of your study will dictate how many theories you want and which of those theories that are relevant to your study. Hi, Prof. Just on the problem statement, why do I need to add citations in addition to my research? Can I use in relation to Divert's program rates? Why do I need to add citations in addition to my research? Anonymous, remember you are giving statistics, and those are not the statistics that you went on to go and count. You must have found those numbers in a specific document, perhaps from the registration department of the Divert College. That is where you may have received the information that there is 75,000. So we need you to present your information scientifically by indicating the source of that number. And of course, where you say only 4,000 are the ones that are passing, you have not yet done the research. This is information that should be available from a specific documents in the Divert College that indicates that only 4,000 are the ones that are completing their study. So that's the whole reason that we need you to cite. Remember, we said a research, it's a systemic and scientific inquiry. We need you to showcase the scientific aspect of the information you are presenting. I don't understand the last part. Can I use in relation to Divert's progress rates? Yeah, Anonymous, where it's Mandlengos. You're welcome to add another question that will guide us so that we can respond. Have we exhausted the questions? Um, I don't see other questions, and I will give you just a few minutes again for your last minute questions. And if there are no longer questions, then we will wrap up. We are having another similar session on the 22nd of August. So I would like you to please go back and gather your questions. Perhaps today you were not really ready with your questions, as you just had to think outright. But you are welcome to go back and prepare the questions in relation to your research studies that you would like us to attend to. And then we will be able to answer your questions. So you are still welcome to attend again on the 22nd of August if you don't have more questions. Right, I don't see any questions again. So I see another incomplete one. Perhaps if you can just go back and get your question straight, because it just says what is the difference between inductive and deductive. So if it's fine with you, if you can go back and rephrase the question and bring it along on the 22nd, then we will be able to answer it when you have completed the question. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues, for your attendance. I think this is a wrap. Then we will meet again on the next session, because I can see there are no longer questions. So come prepared with your questions, and then we will take them on. And please do read your research books so that we can actually align our, and as well as your studies, so that we can align your answers towards your questions. So they are not just plain clear questions, but they are questions that are really focused to your studies. Thank you very much, and have a great evening. Goodbye.